Hey, how's it going? My name's Austin Hale with Artisan Market. Today we're going to be going to Orange County, California to talk with an abstract artist who gets a lot of his inspiration from Laguna Beach. Let's go.
Jeff Bryner. I consider myself an abstract artist, mostly painting abstract based on landscape. My medium is acrylic, sometimes mixed media depending on what I'm working on. I do use a lot of my experience in traveling. Worked for the airlines for a long time. I've lived in many different states as well as in Europe, and I use my experiences to create my pieces. I work on large scale as well as very small scale, just depending on what fits my mood. Right now I'm working on an abstract piece kind of in that medium range. Again, based on pretty much the colors. I see the sunset every night, so I use that quite a bit in my work. When I lived in Chicago, that's where I started painting about 10 years ago. A lot of my work based on landscape, on the buildings and Lake Michigan. When I moved to California about 3.5 years ago, I turned more to the ocean, the hills, boats, anything that's going to be part of my surroundings. You'll see my paintings. So this is the first painting I ever did, and kind of happened, by accident. I was at some friend's house. They had what they called a creative night, where we just had little canvases and we all painted and ordered pizza. It was fun. I had never painted before, and I'd been looking at a painting in a home furnishing store, and I just didn't want to pay for it. So my friend said, well, go buy a big canvas, we have extra paint, and paint something. And 45 minutes later, I had painted this, and I was like, wow, I did that. So I hung it above my mantle, and the next week, all those friends at the creative night came over. I didn't tell them that I'd done it, and they're like, oh, you bought that piece? I'm like, no, I didn't. And they're like, no, you didn't. I said, yeah, I did. And my friend that had given me this stuff, he watched me paint. He's like, yeah, you did it. And then one by one, they're like, well, I want one. And that's kind of how I got started. So a lot of artists will use or paint on an easel and also use a palette to mix their colors. I prefer to paint either on a table or against the wall. It's just my style. I do a lot of the palette knife versus brushing. To me, it gives that interesting mixture of texture. I also do most of my mixing and on the canvas itself versus on a palette prior to applying to the canvas. I prefer to paint on canvas. I also paint on wood, depending on what mood I'm in, but I prefer to paint on canvas. The reason why I like abstract painting is because it forces you as a viewer to make your own story. I know what I see when I paint. I want to know what you see when you look at one of my paintings. And that's a lot of the reason why I chose abstract. It's because I want to make people think. When you look at a boat, you see a boat. But when you look at this, you wonder why the boat is where it's at. And that's why I like abstract painting.